meeting of the Exeter Conservation Commission. And I'll start with introduction of the members, starting at my right.
Dave Short.
Andrew Koff.
Jenny Robb.
Don Clement.
And we have Kristen Murphy, who's our natural resources planner, and Danielle Hoyer is our recording secretary. Since we are such a small group today, anything we vote on, everyone will be voting tonight. I'll start with public comment. I see some public here. Is there any comment about anything that's not on the agenda? Okay, then I will, going to modify the rest of the agenda by moving other business up first, as our town planner, Mr. Sharples, is here to present something, and you all have a map with a ordinance printed, and those are the materials that Mr. Sharples is going to talk about.
Thank you. First, thank you for seeing me on such short notice. Something came up today and I'll explain. But let me first explain why I'm here. The town back in 2017, myself, I applied for a Transportation Alternatives Program grant to connect 3 sidewalks in town. And I'll go over the map that shows the up close of what we're talking about, the 3 easement plans that I passed out. But I did put up Google Maps, and just to give you an orientation, this is the downtown, this is Swampscott River right here, this is Swayze Parkway. We are sitting right here downtown. So there's 3 sections. One is Spring Street. It's right here. It goes like where the PA bookstore is. There is no sidewalk right up here by the Fairpoint. Then it starts again at the PA bookstore, just a section, and then goes to the next house. Then there's another missing piece of sidewalk. So this project connects those sidewalks, so there'll be one continuous sidewalk along Spring Street from Court Street to Water Street. Then if you go up, well, this is Main Street here, you go up past Lincoln Street, cross over the railroad tracks, and this is Winter Street on your left here, goes down to the Winter Street Cemetery. Right here along Winter Street, there is a sidewalk, but it stops at Whitley, and there's no section connecting Winter Street from here to Epping Road where there's a sidewalk along here. So there's this piece right there, so that's the second piece. And then the third piece on the south side of Epping Road, as you go up here, here's Brentwood Road, right here where it peels off. The sidewalk on this side stops right here. There is a piece of sidewalk that was built in front of 80 Epping Road as part of a project, but it kind of starts and ends along the frontage. This sidewalk would continue this across Brentwood Road right here, and then go up and connect to that existing sidewalk that was required by the planning board. So that was the Transportation Alternatives Program project. As part of that project, you have to go and you have to do survey, because there's all sorts of federal requirements and steps that you go through. So when we surveyed those sections, we realized we needed a series of easements, and those are shown in color, which I'll go over on that. The town voted this project, approved this project in the March 2017 warrant. They got the funding. It was contingent upon 80% federal funding, which we received. Then I went to the select board, and they authorized the town manager to execute any and all documents to complete this grant. Then, when we realized we needed some easements after the survey, I've been working on easements, and I finally got the last landowner to sign off on the easements. So all these easements that we're going to talk about, all the landowners agree and are on board and have signed the offer and agreements to provide the town an easement to complete the project. Some of these are temporary, some of them are permanent. So that's all been done. But then there is an RSA that RSA 4114A that talks about the acquisition and sale of land. And anytime the selectman does acquire or sell land, they are required to, they shall first submit any such proposed acquisition or sale to the planning board and to the Conservation Commission for review and recommendation by those bodies. So I was unclear on whether that applied to this. I mean, we're talking about temporary construction easements and a permanent easement for a sidewalk. I mean, some of them are 14 square feet. There's no wetlands, there's no wetland buffers. I mean, I showed you the locations, but I called the town council this morning and they recommended that we go through this process. So fortunately, you folks were meeting tonight. I asked Kristen, can I get on tonight? The planning board's meeting Thursday, and then I'll go to the selectmen after that. So I would ask for your recommendation on it. It can be a recommendation like no objection, but however, whatever recommendation you want to give. So first, I'll go over the easement plans just to describe them to you. On the top page, easement plan, it's sheet number 1. You're gonna see a red and blue little triangle. The blue is an acquisition. It's 14 square feet of that property because that dark line is the curb, so the curb will exist there to allow tractor trailers to make that turn without mounting the curb. The curb's up now, and they mount it and kind of mud up the person's lawn, and we work with those landowners there on board. So the little blue is 14 square feet, and the red is a permanent easement of about 60 square feet. And those are needed only if we ever go back and maintain, to access it, say we need to reset the curb, then we'll use that red space to reset the curb. So it's a permanent easement, but it'll only be used to maintain the curb line as shown. And if you flip to the next page, to sheet 2, and I think you gotta turn it over if you're gonna, read it. You'll see, this is Winter Street. Epping Road is on the right, is on the right side as you're looking at it, as you can read it, is it not upside down, right side up. Epping Road's on the right. So if you go from Epping Road, you'll see a green swatch in front of the house on the corner. That is just a temporary slope easement that we need to grade out. So when we install the sidewalk that's not there within our right of way, the sidewalk will be completely within our right of way, but we'll need to grade that out so it doesn't pond or puddle for that homeowner. Then as you follow it back, there's a red section. That will be a permanent easement. It'll include the 5 feet behind the sidewalk to maintain the sidewalk, and there's a little bump out where there's a drainage structure. So it's, several hundred feet. It shows several hundred square feet. It shows it down there like 600. One's 639 square feet. The other one's 226 and 609. So fairly small, but all those 3 folks are on board with this. Actually, the reason why this sidewalk is on this street is one of these owners actually petitioned the select board to make that sidewalk connection. So everyone is on board with those easements. And then the back one, the final page, sheet 3, is Spring Street. And as you go from left to right, like basically from Court Street down the hill, there's another slope easement, green, temporary. Then there's a little red square that's right in front of the PEA bookstore. That's to put a handicap tip down. One doesn't exist there. It was outside the project limits, but since we were working there, we're like, well, there's a 9-inch curb reveal. Let's put, if we're gonna put a sidewalk continue all the way down, we want it to be ADA accessible. So we'll need a permanent easement from them to put a tip down there. And then there's a red section, again, a little longer section. We're gonna have to put a little bit of sidewalk, and we're gonna have to put a retaining wall there because the slope is pretty steep. Plus, we're retaining 5 feet in the event we ever need to maintain that. And then there's a little square, you'll see, the final little red square, that's to put the tip down in the sidewalk and to maintain it. And that's on the Cincinnati of Ohio's, the American Independence Museum's property, which they are fine with. So those are all the easements. And in order for the select board to accept them, they need review and recommendation by the Concom and Planning Board, and just hopefully get your thoughts. There's no wetlands on any of these easements. There's no wetland buffers. They're all in already disturbed urban areas, as you see. I don't know what comments you may have, but I welcome any that you do.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any comments or questions for Mr. Sharpless?
No, it's very, very clear, I think. We're fortunate that Mr. Sharples has gone aggressively after transportation alternatives programs, and I think this is it's been in the works for like 3 years, and sometimes it's a long process. It's also gonna kind of help fix that intersection at, Brentwood Road, Epping Road, and Columbus Ave a little bit, because we know that's a tough intersection. So, I think, this is worthy. I don't think any of these properties are, conservation, properties we want to put in conservation. They're very small, narrow strips. So if when we're ready, I have a motion I can read, for this.
Great. Anybody else?
Is there a crosswalk going in on Epping Road, across Epping Road from Winter Street to the park?
Yes. There is,
Good.
yes. Yeah, I mean, it was,
No, it's
the neighbors, some of the neighbors did not want it there because the requirements, it's a federal grant, so they required a rectangular, rapid flashing beacon, like you see that PA put in. And
Okay.
folks, but I worked with the lady and we actually ended up, we were putting it right there, Winter Street. Doesn't have anything to do with these easements. Those are all within our right of way, the whole crosswalk. But we worked with the owner and we moved it up 75 feet away from the intersection, so it wasn't right in front of her house. But it's still close enough to the intersection that people, I believe, will use it. Because I did go down there a couple of times and just sat there for an hour and watched if people crossed there. And I was surprised to find, it's not a thoroughfare, but I saw, every time I was there, I saw, 1 to 3 crossings at that location. So we are gonna put in a rectangular rapid flashing beacon and a crosswalk.
Excellent.
Good. Anything else? Well, then I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, upon review of the easement plans completed by Hoyle Tanner and Associates, and as presented by the Exeter Town Planner regarding the installations of sidewalks on a portion of Epping Road, Winter Street and Spring Street, I move that the Conservation Commission has no objection to the town acquiring said easements to complete the Transportation Alternatives Program project.
Great. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, then I'll take a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you very much, appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, the next thing on the agenda is our annual work plan priorities. Several of us met last week to talk about that. And I believe we have something in our packet.
Do you want to reuse this? You can use.
We're gonna take everything. Cool.
Thank you. So we talked last week a lot about events, and then we talked about some other things like trail maintenance and others, but events was really the key, and we came up with many things that have worked well as far as events that we've done this year and in the past, and I'd like to repeat some of those. So we have a list of the things we talked about last week that Kristen has typed up, so thank you for doing that.
Welcome. It's a lot.
Yeah, so I guess we should just talk about which ones of these we really want to do and if we have the people to do them. And I guess we don't have to decide them all tonight, but just think about if we want them in our radar and if people see any that they want to participate in, or you see your name there and you don't think it should be there, don't want it to be there, let us know. So does anyone have any comments on the things we talked about last week that are on this list?
On that geology walk, I suggested it, but I'm not capable of doing it, so
Right.
that might be modified.
Okay. And that's not something we've done in the past.
No. Ginny, did you say you had the name of someone, or?
I can do it. Point.
Thanks, I'm excited, thank you.
All right,
I think you'll be very well attended.
thank you. Do we have an idea where we want to do it?
Ginny, where should we do it?
Well, I mean, I think there's more outcrops in Oakland, aren't there? I'm not familiar with, I mean, I haven't done all of Henderson's Oasis, but
Well, there was a quarry there many, many years ago in the Oaklands.
in where?
In the Oaklands, up
Yeah.
toward 101.
Maybe Don should lead it.
No, I can't, I got lost trying to get there. But there was a quarry up there many, many years ago.
Henderson's Way.
Matter of fact, it's a quarry, if you've ever read the book Prayer for Old Meany,
Yeah,
it's referenced in that book about somebody's father who worked in the quarry in that part of town.
That's
This is
the
fine.
quarry.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he used to walk home from school up the hill every day.
So that's, and then you've got Fort Rock itself, which is a rather, well, that's Fort Rock in the, Henderson.
There is actually a quarry.
No, it's not in the Oaklands. It is in the Henderson Swayze, the quarry, I'm sorry. It's on this side of 101.
Yeah, well, there's two quarries in there. There's one that I don't think anybody even knows about. Carlos didn't even know about it.
Oh,
It's between the trail that comes up from Norrisbrook and heads up past Fort Rock and all that. Between that and the industrial park on the
Really?
slope in there, kind of tucked into the woods. And there's beautiful pieces of cut granite in there and everything. And I was taking a shortcut one day to cut up a tree that had gone down over a trail and stumbled across it. And it was definitely a working quarry at one time.
Huh.
There's pieces ready to go.
Well,
And, but it's hidden. There's no trails near it or anything like that.
interesting.
Yeah.
And then the other quarry?
The other quarry's in
forest
the-
too?
it's on this side of 101, the south side. And it's, tucked in the corner,
On the side of
side toward 101
Fort Rock
and
of
Newfields
the-
Road.
the hill?
It's past Fort Rock, over to the right.
So, sounds like with a little research, the town forest might be the place. to
Yeah,
do it.
I mean, I
you can
think
talk about all the boulders.
The
that they
boulders
got there.
and,
Yeah.
and the wetlands
Yeah.
and things could provide plenty of
Yeah,
topics.
You gonna do that? I'll do it with you. I'll show you where the hidden quarry is.
Okay, we could go on a tour. We could get Dave to show us the hidden quarry. And
Yeah.
all right,
I could have a few other stops.
that's good.
We might be able to get like a bucket auger or something to pull out some sediments to look at what's deposited in the ground. In a non-wetland area, that would be legal too.
Us biological scientists never get to go to the physical science.
True.
You know, also, can I see we have the spring tree program. Could I suggest that maybe the tree committee be a part of
Yes,
Ooh.
any participation?
Yeah.
excellent suggestion. Where is that?
Second to the last.
Okay.
Remember, what was the Easter event that we talked about? I don't recall that.
It was a story hour, wasn't it?
We talked about doing a story hour. I don't know if Easter came up specifically, but
Oh,
Well,
I
that
think
was
we-
You
Ben
mean,
Anderson's Easter event last year.
oh, that's right.
Oh,
Was what
okay.
we talked about.
That's right.
At Rains. I don't know if he's doing it again. We haven't heard from him, so he's probably not planning on doing it again.
but didn't someone say something about having the egg hunt that Parks and Rec does out at Rains? Was that?
I don't know if
I
they'd
don't
give up
remember
the
that.
Parkway is much more convenient. You can park along the Parkway.
Right.
You kind of close it off and for the kids
And you can
downtown.
walk from in-town locations.
Yeah,
And you're not gonna lose all the Easter eggs in the hay.
That's true.
I didn't list the story walk that we had canceled, what, last year before? Again, if I can find some people to help out with it, we still have the book and the props and everything, and that's almost ready to go, but I just didn't want to take it on by myself.
And that was fall. Or-
That was
Do you
October.
mean the Monarch one or
No,
the
the,
fall one? Okay.
The Lady in the Pumpkin, what's the story?
Easter is the lady and the
Old
pumpkin.
lady
Oh,
and
it's the lady.
Scarecrow or something.
It's she goes into the forest and the pumpkin follows her. I shouldn't give it away.
Because of all the kids that
Sounds
were
like
watching.
sounds like the makings of a horror movie.
But we had it scheduled for October 26th, and that's the same day as the rec parade. So there's that to decide if it's going to be on the same day as the parade or another time.
Well, there may be advantages to that, because you have a captive audience, and you have them go over to the story walk after
Well,
the parade.
that was the, I don't want to say the argument, but that was the discussion that, they go to the parade in the morning, then traipse out to our place in the afternoon, but I
Right.
thought that was a little much.
Maybe, yeah. Guess you could
But
argue both
anyway,
sides.
that's to be decided, and we'll see how it goes. Everything's basically all ready to go, it's just putting it together.
Well, when you put these on a spreadsheet, I think it's quite a number of events.
Yeah,
So, I mean, when we talked about it, it's, it's one thing, but then when we see it down on black and white, I think that's,
yeah. It's more than one a month there.
yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's substantial. I think that's, a really great, example of what we can do, what we've already done too, in many cases. So,
yeah. Some of these aren't,
some will fall off,
and,
possibly, but
and some of them aren't gonna require a lot of effort from us as a group, but some of them will.
Since I wasn't able to attend the planning meeting, what is the Earth Day photo contest?
That was something, was that your idea?
no,
Right.
somebody
I think
kicked it around.
I think
Was
this
it someone, I thought DES was doing.
Well,
something like
someone
that.
brought it up, and then I
Todd
had said
brought
that.
it.
I think, is it
DES
the
has a-
Sustainable Committee?
Todd
or-
talked about when they do that. DES does that.
Yeah, so DES on their Facebook page, every season they have a photo contest,
Yeah.
and you take some natural scene in New Hampshire and submit a photo. And then they pick one to be the winning photo, and they put it on their Facebook page. But I didn't have the initial idea, I thought someone else brought it up, and then
But the photo contest?
Yeah.
It was me.
oh, okay,
Okay.
Well, we had talked about whether, I had said whether we can find it to Exeter or just natural.
well, I was thinking it would be a good idea if we did it to just have it on one of our lands, photos of conservation lands, so then we're drawing
That's what I was
attention to our
thinking, too, yeah.
conservation lands.
Yeah.
So not necessarily Earth Day.
No, but could be around Earth Day.
Well, I suppose if you, announced it now, that it's coming up,
Right.
they can be, rather than waiting till the
Well,
last.
yeah, and you're gonna have to have guidelines, you're gonna have to have selection criteria, what kind of photographs, is it gonna be digital, is gonna be accepted, or, standard photographs, I don't know. And so there's some things
Sorry, I mentioned-
you gotta work out before, because April 22nd is not that far
I
away.
agree. See, this is the trouble, I open my mouth and
No, great ideas, but, I think,
today's not the
because I
day.
know, we've talked about that for another group I was involved in, or I'm involved in years ago, and he says, boy, there's really a lot you've gotta, because people question, well, how come this person got picked, and, it can generate some controversy.
Well, do we even need for photos? Like for the Facebook page?
No,
or
I just
for
thought-
advertising?
No, it's just
Well-
to sort of draw attention to us and our lands and our mission.
There's a couple of people that, you don't do Facebook, but there's a couple of people on that Exeter Community Forum page that they go around and shoot pictures of Exeter, and people are, thank you for and they're mostly around Swayze Parkway or.
They're great
downtown.
pictures, by the way, she does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's
So the way DES votes is they put the pictures out there to the public and just let the public vote on them. So that's how they decide the winner, so.
Yeah, and then I know through, there's a photo contest related to king tides that
Oh, right.
Yeah.
the coastal program does, and
Yeah.
then they choose like prominent people to be the judging team, like
yeah.
maybe someone from NHPR or whatever, so we
Right.
can.
I don't think I want to get that critical of having
Yeah,
professional photographers critique it, just,
I think, so, I just would want to define the goal, and if the goal
Yeah.
is bringing people to conservation lands, that's great. And then, I think picking subjects is easy, like flora, fauna, whatever, I don't know, whatever it is, you know, having like 4 different categories.
All right, well, that's safe, but we got,
Could be nice, could be skipped. I don't think I feel strongly about this.
Yeah.
Or you- or you could-
Same
or you-
way. I think it's not a bad idea, but
Or you could do it seasonal. Say the best winter pictures, spring, summer, fall. Because each one has, different, views. That's a plus, but then you're doing it 4 times a year. You just want to do it once, right, Ginny? Make it-
See?
yeah, I think 4
Happens.
times a year would be a lot
Yeah.
for us. but
all right, we'll work
Try
on
it
it.
once and see.
Is it anything that anybody wants to pursue, think that we should pursue? I mean, these were all just things we,
Yeah, I threw everything on here that.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, yeah.
Casually mentioned.
Right.
Yeah, I think in the triage list, to me, that falls to the bottom a little bit. Like, if we have leftover capacity, then that would be a great idea. But if we
Yeah.
don't, then maybe we skip this year and focus on some of the other things. Because I think to do it well and meaningfully will require some effort.
Yep.
okay, to be pursued.
So, might be a good idea to look at the ones we've put on here for the next couple of months and see if we want to work on those, and then the other ones we can talk about as the seasons pass. So, we've got the Skywatch, which we already have a date for, and then the Woodcock Walk and the Vernal Pool Program are things that are ideas on here for the spring.
And spring tree.
Well, the
I think
spring
it's
tree is
sort of
pretty
fun.
much set every year,
Yeah.
right? That's, so, any thoughts on those couple of, anyone have interest in, well, Carlos is the one who's done the Woodcock Walk, so he's not here to speak about that.
Yeah, I didn't follow up with him
Okay,
to find out if he's willing. The vernal pool program is something that we'd like to do at the Forest Ridge
Right,
site.
yeah. and,
And I volunteered the fact that Erlac did that for years, and we have a contact, so I can try to get them to partner
Yeah.
and provide some of the experience that they've had with this, with the vernal pool workshops. And then there was a gentleman in town who has graciously done it many, many years for them, Erlac, and he lives in Exeter now, so we might be able to contact him into conducting the vernal pool workshop. So I can work with Kristen on that.
okay. And then maybe think about a geology walk in late spring, might be a good idea. And then these others we can talk about as the year goes on. Last week, we also talked about some property management things. I don't know how much we want to get into these. See the Irvine sign on here. Oh, it's under trails, okay. Anybody have any thoughts on what we talked about on any of these items last week? And I know not all of us were there, but,
Is the Cheney property, is that at Irvine? Is that what?
No,
That's-
it's south of Brentwood Road.
and what was that structure to address?
There's basically a very, I don't know if rustic is the right word, tree cabin, log-ish kind of
Hunting
tree
blind.
structure.
Oh,
Yeah, oh, that's,
But
okay.
large, yeah, that has been there. Drew noted it on his inspection 2 or possibly
2 years
3.
ago. No, it's 2
Been
years
on there
ago.
for a long time. Been on there way back when, in 2006, 2005, when I was on the Concon.
so how would we address
So-
that? Or
So
is
I
that,
guess, yeah, I mean, I guess the question is that something that we are worried about? So it was there when we acquired it? What?
Oh, well, I know after we acquired it, yeah. I mean, it's been there for a while. And again, never knew exactly what its purpose was, how it got there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a hunting blind that gets used
It's
seasonally,
rather-
possibly.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not concerned that much about the structure, but there's other related things there
yeah.
that are associated with people being out there. And they cut down all these little saplings to make it, so.
It becomes an attractive nuisance. We had one on the McDonald property many, many years ago, we found when we cut some trails through there. The same thing, maybe not as elaborate as the one on Cheney, but it was and it wasn't a hunting blind, it was probably, over the years, kids had gone in and were building a fort. So,
Okay,
Well, there's another one over in, Henderson Swayze too.
is there?
Yes. But again, it's kind of off the beat, unless you're bushwhacking, you're not gonna see it. And it looks like it's maintained, it looks like it's being used occasionally.
for what, Dave? Because there's no hunting allowed, no firearms allowed in Henderson
It
Swayze.
doesn't appear hunting related, it looks like something that somebody maybe occasionally just goes out there and camps, you know? There's no trash, there's no litter, to me, it's pretty inoffensive. But it's in there.
Okay.
That sounds different than
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
other one,
Yeah.
which has other assorted
Right.
items.
Right.
But it sounds more in the survival shelter.
Yeah, there's a fire pit, and it's open on one side, and a bench, and I think maybe a coffee pot.
So later in the spring, when the weather clears up, can we send somebody in there, take pictures and photographs of it, and then we can review them here at the Concom, and use that as a basis of a decision what to do?
Sure.
Does that make
That makes
sense?
sense, yeah.
I mean, I have had pictures of Cheney.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I mean, the question is, do we want to just dismantle the thing, or do we not?
Yeah.
That's
I
as
mean, I
simple
think
as,
physically it would take some effort to dismantle it.
yeah, or a chainsaw and,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay. Also on this list, we talked about the mowing management at Morissette. I don't know that we came to any decision, but you talked about
Right.
alternative mowing plans on that?
Yeah, and that is on the agenda for tonight to talk.
Okay, so we'll talk about that when we come to it?
Yeah.
Okay. These invasive removals, those are things we've been talking about for a long time, so.
Yeah,
I think-
except the SCA, portion.
Yeah.
That would be something that we want to set up early.
Okay.
That would be hiring SCA volunteers and, using some funds from the, forest management.
Okay, and we missed the deadline last year, right?
Right.
So
Right.
when is that deadline?
It was June,
Oh, okay.
yeah. But
Okay.
I
So
wanna get it all
we
out
were-
there.
Yeah, right. All right. And then looking to recruit some volunteers for a couple of things, I think is a good idea. Do we have any ideas on how we're going to recruit?
So I had quite a bit of, or a fair amount of success with VRAP last year. All I really did was put out a call for volunteers on Facebook and the town website. And we had, I think it was like 7 new people volunteer. I think consistently about 4 new people, 5 new people were helping. So it was a great way to, and I've even had an email from one of them asking, when do we start sampling? I want to do it again. So, the concept of the VRAP program really is supposed to be volunteer
Right.
run. And so, so doing something like that, I think for invasives would be a great alternative. Carlos has been having a hard time getting volunteers out, but he was thinking maybe set work days, like a third Saturday or something like that. People just show up and help remove invasives.
Okay.
So we advertise on the website? our Facebook page, or,
Not yet, but yeah,
we would, I mean, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it was pretty low lift. It was just throwing
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
but, you know, commitment to training, and
right.
for me, for VRAP, it was well worth it.
Yeah, we did that, I
Yeah.
remember several people who stepped up, and they really seemed to enjoy it.
Yeah,
And if you get some repeats this year, you
Yeah.
won't have as much training to do.
right,
So,
exactly.
good.
And in terms of invasive removal, where I think the more people, the better, that's something that I think if we have set work days, we could advertise on Nature Groupie, because I don't think we necessarily care if people are from Exeter, right? I mean, it'd be great to have people from Exeter, but we'll take help from other communities as well, so.
Right. And then we talked a lot about some trail maintenance things, and glad to have Dave here tonight, because he probably has a lot of knowledge about some of these things. Starting with the prime wetland bridge that we talked about, do you want to, Drew, would you mind letting,
The Crooked Bridge, or?
yeah, is that the one?
Or both,
Oh, there's
really,
two.
both of those two.
Yep.
Well,
No,
I mean, I guess I have limited experience out there, but I have been out there and I didn't feel like it was a safe crossing. My overall
Yeah, we-
concern was the safety related. And are those crossings needed?
and if they are and they're not safe, is there something we can do about them?
No, they are needed, because otherwise you'd have to make a huge detour to get around back to where you wanted to go.
Mhm.
The longer lower bridge,
Yeah, are both
I don't-
needed? Could we do one?
no, I think you need them both, because you can't get, yeah, you definitely need both of them. And, the long lower bridge, to me, there isn't so much of a safety issue as potentially the Crooked Bridge, because the other bridge is so low to the ground.
Yeah, I guess I've only been on the crooked one.
Yes,
Yeah.
and,
The other one is submerged in water some of the year.
well, I think somebody must have remember when Mary Lou came in and somebody had blown out part of the dam and that pond drained? Well, I think somebody did it again, because I went in there 2 weeks ago and the water was up to the bridge. I was in there last weekend and it was that far below the bridge. So I think there's a hole in the Beaver Dam down towards the power lines again.
Okay.
I didn't go look, but.
Or it could have gotten blown out in one of the heavy rains.
Yeah.
I think so.
Those beaver dams
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah,
they don't move very easily.
right.
And then the Crooked Bridge, the issue that's starting to develop there, in addition to it being an interesting way to cross the water, is the fact that beaver have built the dam up to a height now to where portions of that bridge are underwater and it's freezing over. So to go across that, right now, it's a little hairy. I've been talking it over with Toby, and, you know, last year, we were manually removing a section of the dam to drop the water, just get it down like a foot or so. We're not gonna win that battle. You know, the beaver, they'll work all night to repair what it would take you a couple hours to do during the day. So one thought we've had, was to maybe actually because it's a straight shot across that dam, and actually build the bridge right over the top of the dam, so that it's straight, it's not very high up, and we're not fighting the beaver, to try to keep the bridge out of the
What
water.
would that take to do?
You know, we were talking about it, and we don't think it would be all that complicated. We'd have to do a little testing, but some metal pipe, like fence post pipe, if we could drive those into that dam, because it is just sticks and mud. If we could drive those in deep enough, you know, pairs of them, and then run the bridging in between those, from one side to the other. It's a shorter stretch than what's there now. And again, we're not fighting the beaver.
But can we alter the course, Kristen, this is probably a question for you, can we alter the course of that bridge? Or is that violating some wetland rule that we're, because that was a grandfathered bridge. What was it?
So, I mean, I think we'd have to do a trail maintenance notification.
Okay,
It's a vernal pool there too, isn't it? Or is it? I can't remember.
I mean, it's a marsh.
Oh, yeah,
I
it's
don't-
significant, it's very
It never
significant.
dries
Yeah.
It's a
out,
full-fledged,
so-
I mean, there's a huge beaver
Yeah.
hodge,
Lodge, yeah.
lodge.
Not nice to fool with Mother Nature.
What's that?
Not nice to fool with Mother Nature.
Yeah,
But maybe just, because if you're driving pipe, and I'm sure, I trust Dave's construction skills, but I don't know if that would trigger some kind of a permitting process.
I don't know. I think we'd need to just go out and see this. I really don't have,
what I'd like to do is, before everybody's time gets wasted too, is go out there and test that theory to see if we can get
Yeah.
a piece of pipe down through it.
mm-hmm,
And if we can, then
and
proceed.
talk about
Yeah.
whether or not we can do that, and wanna
Yeah,
do that.
if that's even an option.
Can afford to do that.
Why make plans unless we know it's
Yeah.
feasible?
Right,
And then if we have some plans, then we can go from there.
yes.
All right,
Yeah, that
it
makes
used
sense.
to that dam used to have a pipe that regulated elevation of the water, like a beaver deceiver
Right.
pipe.
Right. But, you know, the Crooked Bridge needs maintenance.
Yeah.
And, you know, the maintenance is, we're gonna require people standing in water up to their chest, basically, to do it. So maybe it's time to move on from that bridge. So if nobody has an objection, I'd like to at least try to get an piece of steel pipe into the dam and just see what that entails.
well, the beavers might have an objection, but.
They might.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess my concern is I guess there's two levels. There's the overall safety of it and bikers who know it's there and are willing to like deal with it. I think that's one thing, but there's probably hikers, other people who come to it. And even walking across it could be hard on certain people. And it's not obvious from the map that you have this sort of hazardous wetland crossing. So then, do those people are kind of put in a spot, do they cross it, or do they, backtrack back around where they are?
To tell you the truth, though, most people, hikers, runners, bikers, I really haven't heard, most of the feedback I've heard on it is people think it's pretty cool.
It's unique, certainly, yeah.
So, yeah, it's,
No doubt, it's interesting for certain, it's an
it's
interesting
kind of
bridge, but-
iconic.
Yeah.
It's been there a long time, and whose crazy well, I think I know whose crazy idea it was to build it that way to begin with. And, yeah, it's kind of neat, but,
It definitely provides a unique opportunity to view that wetland, which you don't get that kind of opportunity often, but I like the idea of getting out, getting the structure out of it.
yeah. And you're only, at that point, you're probably, well, on the bridge that's there now, you're probably only 30 feet away from that lodge. So you get right up close to that.
Okay, so you wanna try that
So,
out?
yeah, Toby and I'll give that a shot. And speaking of Toby, another thing that came up was, everybody's aware of the vandalism of the sign down at the Trestles
Yes.
lot.
Yeah,
He knows somebody who, has the capability to do, printing on Tyvek, color printing. And, they're willing, they want to see if they can use that printer to recreate a map with good enough resolution to possibly do mapping with. And they've offered, at least for that first sign, for free, to, if we give them a PDF or a JPEG file, to print out the map that was vandalized. And that would, well, free obviously would be our cheapest alternative.
Right.
And it also might be a method that we would want to use down the road,
Yeah.
because vandalism is gonna crop up here and there.
Mhm.
So, if, again, if nobody has any objections, I'd like to have, get that file to him, get him the dimensions of what we need, and let's give it a try.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Anyone else have any thoughts? No?
That's the one that you just posted, but, yeah.
Yeah. Well, why
I guess
don't you
we would want
pursue
to
that?
verify that the quality is good enough.
Well, if he's doing it for free, I think we can just see how it comes out, and if we don't like it, then we
Can we go ahead and pay for something?
do what else we were gonna
Yeah,
do,
yeah.
pay the $95 for a newly printed
Right.
sign. Okay,
So,
Do we need a vote to authorize that, Mr. Chairman? There's no money involved yet?
there's no money in
No
it.
money,
Yeah,
so I think,
okay, great.
was there anything else on that, Kristen, that we should talk about?
Well, I would love to know your thoughts on what to do on the backside, because the backside used to have, bulletin board material on that deteriorated over the years. Now, even though Public Works covered it up, it still has a pretty visible nasty sign on it that I'd love to get rid of. So I don't know what we want to use that other side for, but we should do something with it. I know a bulletin board isn't that useful there, but
Hmm.
I don't know what else to put there.
Our photos. The photos from the photos contest.
I don't think I've ever seen anything really posted on there
Yeah.
of huge value to a user. So, make
It's
it,
usually like a lost pet or lost keys
yeah,
or,
Yeah,
yeah, maybe just make it look presentable, throw a coat of paint on it or something like that, and call it a day.
Maybe it needs another coat of paint.
yeah, do we need to display anything on it?
Invasive removal
yeah.
or invasives.
Reminders to
Your
do tick checks.
local and common invasive to be on the watch for.
Yeah, that's like-
Carry in and
Yeah.
carry out.
Carrying, yeah,
Yeah. All right, I don't know, do we want to go through all of these trail maintenance things? Oh, one thing on the Irvine sign, I saw that you posted that, or I
Oh,
guess it was
yeah.
you, on the, Facebook page about asking if there's anyone who can replace that sign. So I tagged a friend of mine in town on that post, and then I called him and he said he'll take a look at it, but it sounds like something that's in his wheelhouse.
That's
And he would be
great,
happy
yeah.
to do it. He's gonna look at the sign and see exactly what we're looking for.
Okay.
But he said he'd be happy to do it if it's something he can do.
Yeah, and someone posted that
A reply, yeah.
they could consider, I forget what they said exactly.
They
but
said their
asked about
tools
the
are all
size.
packed away right now.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what it was, yeah. Yeah,
But he was good with the router.
yeah, I mean, so Bill had, for those who aren't aware, Bill had taken the sign specs and got an estimate, and it was like,
475.
oh, he did, he got it this
Yeah.
week,
yeah,
okay.
which is,
Is that in
that's a
color
hefty
and-
lift for a sign that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right. My idea was if we couldn't figure out a in-kind replacement, we could just have a more traditional, just say Irving property
Right.
or
right.
Yeah.
Irving Hayes
And
in the existing style that we have our guy does,
Yeah,
yeah.
Bill's guy.
Bill's guy.
So are there anything else on this list that you thought was worth bringing up tonight? I don't know that there is.
No, but I think that there was interest in having a trail committee meeting and
Oh,
trying
right,
to
that
get
was
them
on there.
like
Yeah.
a quarterly, or I don't know what the appropriate
Yeah,
time is.
are you our member representative for the trail committee?
I guess.
Do we actually have much of a committee left? Do we know the numbers on the committee?
I don't know if there's ever actually been a committee.
Yeah.
It's been more just if there's a meeting announced,
Yeah,
people will attend.
okay. Do you have interest in doing quarterly meetings on that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be good, I think. Okay. Let's move on. We're going to scratch the DES wetland rule amendment that we were going to talk about tonight, because that was going to be Lindsay presenting that to us, since she's an expert, and she does that for her job. So we'll wait till she's here, hopefully next meeting. So we'll move on to committee reports, starting with property management, which we've talked about a couple of things, but, the first item under there is conservation planning. So what's that?
So that was the group that started as wetland mitigation, but, we, taking the arm, Lindsay took, properties in town, a map of the town, and, identified ranked property based on arm criteria, basically, to find out which parcels, undeveloped parcels, would rank head and shoulders above the rest in terms of, arm grant funding. So, I took that list of 20 or so properties, removed some, and last week presented that, plus a few larger parcels that were identified in our natural resource inventory that didn't quite make that list. And I think our last discussion was, well, we walked through each of the parcels, kind of got ourselves oriented to what those properties are. And the next plan is to potentially reach out to some landowners. So we'll have a non-public discussion, ideally at the next meeting, go through some of those properties, and then send out, with the ARM grant potential, send out a, hey, no guarantees, but there is this opportunity. Are you interested in being contacted should, in the future or something? I don't know. We haven't worked out what that language would be, but, and just try to narrow down and sort out who the willing landowners might be. And the nice thing about that is it gets us prepared for an ARM grant proposal, but it also helps us sort out properties that might be used for mitigation down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I stopped calling it just the ARM project. I feel like it needs to be broader than that. I mean, really, it's a conservation priority list,
Sure,
so.
okay. So you think maybe at the next meeting we'll be able to
Yeah.
talk about that?
I think it's worth walking, I'm not sure, I'd need to spend some time, and Allison, maybe you have some feedback, what the best way to go through those properties, like maybe we hit the top 5 or something like that, but, because it definitely does generate some discussion when you're looking at each property individually.
Yeah, and I think there's value in knowing what's our most valuable, properties that we would go for, but then also figuring out what are we reasonably able to obtain.
Right, right.
This might be the one we want to get, but they're not going to sell it for
Right.
whatever reason, so.
And what are our goals of protecting? Water resources, wetlands, wildlife areas.
Right,
So try to set some kind of, criteria,
yeah,
weighing criteria maybe.
The other thing I added to Lindsay's list and the NRI ones is if they're only partially within that NRI area, those might be properties that we would work to protect through the development process. If open space development comes forward, we would want to prioritize protecting that portion that's in the NRI
That's a good
priority
idea.
area.
okay. And then we mentioned the Morissette with the mowing. Is there more to discuss on that?
There is, so your packet, So Jenny and I met with Tom Brightman and so Tom Brightman is with New Hampshire Fish and Game, and Tracy Degnan with our Rockingham County Conservation District. They had a project they were developing with Ann DeMarco, the SST instructor that we partnered with for the cleanup. Her kids will be growing out growing out milkweed this year, but need a place to plant it. And so that's a species that we've been trying to encourage growing at Morissette. So we met with them, kind of talked about the potential of using Morissette. It is in alignment with my opinion is it's in alignment with the conservation deed that's there. But while we were talking, we also invited his recommendations for mowing regime, so in the past 2 years, we've kind of split the property in half. And there was one thought to mow just the same side over and over again, and one thought to switch. What benefits do you have from either strategy? And so Tom actually went out to the property with David O'Hearn, because he has mowed it recently and he knew the wet areas. Ginny or I weren't able to attend that day. I can't remember. I think they moved it till later in the day. And so the packet does have some recommendations, and that was to break the field into 2 to 3 different sections, and he could help delineate those with us in the field. And by doing that, so if you mow it on a regular basis, you're encouraging annual species, you're discouraging those biennial species. And so, by mowing, one section every, what would that be? If you broke it up into 3, it would be one section every 3 years, right? Then you'd have 2 years of growth. So you'd get some different perennials out there, biennials. Anyway, so I think it would be a great way to help really actively manage that property as a pollinator site. There's not, because we do late season mowing, there's not a whole lot of use interior to the field. Most of the recreation is around the perimeters or on the trail alignment. So that's not really an issue. But I thought I would bring that to the committee and see what you guys thought. They're perfectly willing to work with us on designing a mowing regime out there, and also encouraged taking it further, which I wasn't sure if this is something we could quite manage, but coming up with different planting and mowing schemes in order to test milkweed restoration out there, which is great, but it was very intensive. Ginny, I don't know if you remember what, it was like mowing every couple days or every week or so for a period, and scarifying the soil. It was pretty intensive. And so to me, that seems like a neat concept, but I don't know if we have really the resources financially.
Yeah,
or
we'd have to
staff
hire
pull
somebody to do
off.
that,
Right.
right?
Well, you wouldn't have to do that big an area, would you, as a test site, though?
Yeah, so how big?
I don't know.
It was like 100 by 50 or so. I mean,
Okay.
it was a decent sized area. I really didn't spend a ton of time considering it, because I was like, we can barely even maintain the fields that we have to mow,
Yeah.
like if we're going to spend more
Easy
mowing
to
money,
do.
I'd rather have it be at a place like Rains where it can open up opportunity for access to the barn or something.
Is there any monies available from Tom's grant or from,
Not
for mowing?
Not for mowing, but he offered his time as to develop recommendations.
So one of the things they talked about was planting these milkweed plugs, and you need almost like an aerator that come, and then you pop the plugs in afterwards. So that's an expense of getting that piece of equipment out there.
Well, how big is that equipment, though?
Well,
So like
they
a tiller?
It's lawn care companies have it, so it's, probably got a 36 swath, maybe. But it's just, in other words, it's nothing that we can do ourselves, and
Oh, I think you used to be able to rent those at one time. Did you go plug your, you do your lawn?
you did,
I
I
did.
got one, did you?
Yeah,
All right.
it was years ago, and I don't know, used to be extra rental.
Are you volunteering to do it, Don?
No, I'm not, I'm just trying to remember. Has to be continuous mowing, you said every week, but, so it carries through in the summer season.
If we wanted to do that test scenario, right? The other scenario, which to me seems more reasonable, is divide the field up into three spots and have the SST students plant in one.
That's what I'm wondering, could you have SST even adopt a trial for the milkweed? But see, they have to be in session when you're still doing mowing,
Right.
so. I mean, I remember, God love him, but Pete Richardson, I remember, because he had kind of adopted the, Linden Commons
Yeah.
land, and Pete would go out there with his lawnmower and make sure the trail was clear through the field. And he'd go out there every few weeks, bring his lawnmower in the back of his station wagon, unload it, cast it up, and,
Well, he did that tomorrow to McDonald too, on
Yeah.
the path from Court Street to the,
did he really?
yeah.
Yeah, God love him. Yeah, I'm not sure anybody think wants to do that.
No. Yeah, I agree. I don't think we have the resources to do this experimental field, but I think the idea of mowing in 3 sections, and that actually sounds like that would save us money, because we're
Right,
mowing a
exactly.
smaller part each
Yeah.
year.
And so then the thought is, well, I guess let's step back. So does allowing the students to plant milkweed out there, are you supportive of that?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, so there is potential for us to, so they have funds to grow a certain amount out, for us to purchase additional plants and supplement their planting. And maybe we use some of the funds that were set aside for mowing, the savings that we'd have this year. Okay.
Yeah,
So
that
I
sounds
think,
great.
then if, it sounds like you're all on board, maybe we just continue to meet with Tom and get something a little more concrete, maybe
Yeah.
mapped out.
Yeah, you
and-
said he'd be willing to design a
Yep.
plan. That'd
Yep.
be great.
Great, okay.
All right.
Cool. And I also really love the partnership with Ann DeMarco's group. I think it's a great location. It's right next door, there's no transportation needed.
Right. Yeah.
Do you maybe check in with Dave O'Hearn? I know he has opinions about mowing, and might make sense to consult with the mower.
Yeah, so he went with Tom, and it was from that, whatever discussion they had, that
Yeah.
Tom kind of
Right, I
summarized
see.
the
He would come
plan.
up.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, so that's it for the Morissette.
yeah.
And we've talked about the Henderson Swayze kiosk, there's not anything else to say on that. So we have the outreach events next. Drew, you want to report on the Full Moon Snowshoe?
We had a successful event. Allison was there
Oh,
as well. I'd say there was about 20 people. I actually have the list. We had a lot of signups, but most of the signups did not show. There were some people who didn't sign up that didn't come.
Oh, interesting.
Alice and I both brought our families, so we got extra kudos for having kids there. I think maybe we were the only
No other kids,
parents.
though.
We were the
Yeah.
only
It's
parents.
all adults,
Yeah.
other than our families.
It was maybe a little more serious of a crowd this year than last year.
They traveled for it.
Right, and we went around and introduced ourselves, and
One person from Exeter, everyone else was from out of town.
Were you on snowshoes or just walking?
You needed something, so I think, everyone had snowshoes or like micro spikes or
I was
yak
gonna say,
tracks.
it was just so icy.
Yeah, there wasn't
I
much.
mean,
It was
even
mostly
snowshoes
ice.
wouldn't have done it.
Yeah,
what was the farthest someone traveled from?
well, New York City, but that was my friend. But Marblehead,
Marblehead. There was
Marblehead?
Marblehead and
and there's a,
Ave, or Amesbury or somewhere,
No,
North Shore area.
yeah, and wasn't there like a Milford too? And New Hampshire.
Oh, from
and
New Hampshire.
Yep.
Yeah,
and then-
there was some Epping, or there was some regional people.
Where did you advertise this?
Lee, there were people from
Facebook.
Lee. There
Oh,
were-
Lee, that's what I was thinking, not Epping.
And there was, so I think it was someone from Marblehead and maybe someone from like Ipswich or Newbury, like just north of that. Like it was, we were shocked. There was one person from Exeter who wasn't
Who wasn't
us.
on the commission or related to somebody else.
Really?
Yeah.
And the rest are all out?
Yeah.
So that, I guess that's a good and bad thing about Facebook, is you cast a wider net.
Right.
But-
So when we post events, for those of you who have Facebook, even if you don't use it a lot, if you share that event, we're more likely to get, I think.
I
mean,
think I shared the event.
Did you? Yeah.
Or I posted about it.
Oh, okay.
And I did try and
Was there
get some
anyone
of
from
my
Newbury?
friends to come,
too.
but that didn't work.
Well, and I think, the forecast was much
Yeah, it was
worse
pretty
than the
cold.
reality.
Yeah, well, the
Totally.
one, when I got out there, I thought, oh, this, but
Yeah, because I think I looked at the weather right before I left the house and it said there was about 20-mile-an-hour winds and in the 20s and, everything was
wasn't.
iced over. So it was
died
pretty
down.
It
There was a
treacherous,
big
but
full moon.
There was a
There
gorgeous
was,
full
yeah.
moon and the wind like died down right as we got out there. So it was quite lovely. The bonfire was awesome.
We had an awesome bonfire.
That
The hot
looks like
chocolate was
quite a
perfect.
fire.
Hot chocolate was a huge hit. Huge.
And Dave had cleared this path, so we hiked almost straight out to the Irving property because it was pretty icy, and so Dave got the fire going right away, so we went out there. And then we kind of regrouped there, and Allison gave a nice little talk about the site and the shoreline and sea level rise and climate change, how it's affecting how they're managing the property. And a few other things. It was a good little talk, and I thought it was well received by everybody. And then we hiked on this path that was maybe an old road
Yeah.
out to the point that Dave had cleared last week because it had a bunch of fallen old pines and tons of bittersweet and other things. So I hadn't walked out there, and it was a cool place to go with the group, and so it was fun.
Good.
Awesome. And he said that he and Mark Damsel stayed late, made sure the fire went out, so. that was
Yeah,
quite
so-
a bit of time
Was
on
Mark
his
the other
behalf.
person from Exeter? The one? person
No,
from Exeter?
not counting Mark. So that was funny. So Dave lit the fire, and Mark Damsel, who lives across the river,
Yeah.
saw it.
Oh.
And I
really?
think called Dave, knowing that Dave was out there or something. And Dave's like, yeah, come on over. So he came on over because he saw the fire.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a
It
small
must have
town.
been a
And
fire.
he literally
because-
And an
lives right
impressive
across.
fire.
Well, it lives right there on
Yeah.
New Forest Road.
Right.
Down by the
Kind of
trestle.
like our little
So you can see right
solstice fire.
across to the,
Yeah.
But
The,
it
uh,
also
how's it
really
go?
speaks to just how much that area has been cleared. Like the bittersweet that was out there was insane when, however many years ago, when we first started removing all of that, like it was just vines all through there.
Yeah, they're woody and
Yeah.
like this thick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's more to do. I think Dave's done a really good job clearing it, but he was talking to us at the end about there's that old foundation there, and that is still covered. So it would be
Yeah.
neat to continue to sort of peel back the bittersweet around there and expose that old foundation, because there's a lot of history on that site. And he thinks there's another little road that went from that foundation area out. So there's a lot on that little parcel. It's a neat spot. So we had a good event, and it seems like it's a good annual event. I'd say, yeah, the conditions were a little challenging this year.
But even so, multiple people asked if we were doing it again next year.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
So I think, yeah, the challenge would be to really push it as like more of a family event, and hopefully the weather would be better.
and we'll have to light more signal fires to
Yeah.
attract people from over the river.
Maybe sounds like maybe we've broken the weather curse. We've had two successful events without having to postpone them or,
Well, that's the
Let's
benefit
keep
of
our
that.
fingers
of
crossed
that
for April
site.
23rd.
That could have been really challenging to be parking on icy terrain at Rains, whereas
Yeah,
the country club did a great job, you know, they plow and it's very easy there.
Yeah. Okay, next we have the April 23rd Skywatch event at Rains. Anyone, who's the lead on that wants to talk about that?
That is being sponsored. The presenters are the New Hampshire Astrological Society, and they will be doing a presentation in the barn initially, just more a slide presentation. I think at 7:30, and about a half hour, and then we'll go outside, and they provide telescopes. And hopefully we can have it on the 23rd, which is a Thursday. That was the dates that were offered. And then Monday, which will be school vacation week, will be the cloud date.
Okay.
So hopefully.
Do we know how many telescopes they'll have? There's-
We didn't get
Gonna
that
be
far, but
waiting in
the
line.
one at the library I will bring out too.
Oh, okay.
And actually, that's this organization donated those telescopes to libraries all over New Hampshire.
Oh,
So it's a beautiful telescope too.
okay. Great.
So Jenny, I'll work with you on like the flyer and all of that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I just learned about that. You can rent a telescope from the library. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, they only have one.
They have one, right?
Yeah, but no, and you could have it for a week, or I think, it's not
All right.
very professional one.
And they
it's
had,
not-
do they, and I think they give you some instructions about how to set it up and everything.
We have a flat roof at our house on the back part of it, and we rented it and set it up outside and had the kids all up on the roof, and it's been amazing. It's really incredible.
Cool. All right, Tree City Subcommittee is next. Is there a report on that? Because Sally's not here.
Just briefly, so they have a meeting scheduled for the 18th, February 18th.
Okay.
And they're talking about, there are several, I think 3 Liberty elms where, someone committed to donate 3 Liberty elms, which are the elms that are resistant, have been bred to be resistant to Dutch elm's disease. And they're also looking to establish, tree stewards. So for new tree plantings, new street tree plantings, there really needs to be some ongoing long-term care of care of those while they get established. And so, in addition to, and it sounds like more people have offered donations, but in addition to just receiving trees, they really want to set up a way for people to commit to taking care of them longer term. And then the other thing that's on the agenda, they are looking at our tree ordinances, not the one that was just updated, but, I had sent a couple different places where trees are addressed in our regulations, and so they're looking at those.
Like in site
order to
plan?
be, what?
like in
Yeah.
planning board site plan regulations.
Yeah,
They just redid those a little bit, yeah.
yes. But we also have town ordinances that address like the tree program. There is a tree ordinance, and, we were able to qualify as a USA tree town. What's the?
Tree City,
Tree City, thank you.
because we had, yeah,
Because we had that.
We met
but
some
it sounds
criteria.
like, the committee's looking at that to make some modifications.
are they working with our tree warden? Which I
Jay
think is
is-
Jay Perkins.
Jay is a part of these
Oh, yes,
meetings.
okay,
yeah.
cool.
The one that I attended, Jay was there, Greg Bisson was there from Parks and Rec. There was someone who is involved with the Riverwoods, Arboretum that they have out there. Someone who works with, I can't remember if it's Eversource or Unitil.
Oh, yeah, I know who
With
she,
their
I know who she
tree
is.
maintenance
Probably
Yeah.
program.
I think years ago, several years ago, we met with her, and Eileen Flockhart got a hold of her, and we met with her out in the Park Street area about replacing trees that have been taken down. There was a program when, they take down a lot of trees to manage their power lines.
Right.
But they had a program to replace some of the trees. It was,
That are more suitable, that aren't gonna
Yeah,
get to
yeah.
30 feet.
so I don't know if they still do that, but
Yeah.
that's a good
So,
contract.
I think they're making some good, decent progress. Yeah.
So that meeting's February 18th? When,
February
what time
18th
and
at
where?
8:30 in the morning here in the office.
Okay.
I met with Eileen and Jay today also,
Oh, okay.
over at Eileen's house. And, they went over, what they were trying to accomplish and stuff like that. And, yeah, that guy with the elms, and it's a multi-year donation also. He's gonna
Oh.
do, I forget whether it was 3 elms for 5 years, 3 elms for 3 years, or something like, but it was a significant
Wow.
donation. It wasn't just a 1-year deal.
Oh, good.
And,
Expensive trees.
yeah, and then talking about, who would handle the installation and stuff like, because you don't want the homeowners. Jay's got 2 guys, I've seen what they've done and stuff like that. He's got 2 guys that are very good. And they're the ones who should do it. Instead of having 15 cooks, let's have 2. And then, discussed the tree maintenance afterwards. And also, even the areas that need trees, like identifying those, and we were talking about the main arteries coming into town. Like you come down High Street, it's absolutely gorgeous. You go back out of town, and it's absolutely gorgeous, say, going out Front Street. You hit the Catholic church, though, around the curve, and then you hit this dead zone all the way down to the convenience store. Well, Epping Road, you get out to the electric bike shop, and then from there down to the mobile station is another kind of dead zone. And obviously Portsmouth Avenue is pretty barren also. And I wasn't aware of this, but Jay said the town right away on a couple of those roads is significant enough to where some of that could be addressed, because, after living out of town so much this summer, every time I come in, when you hit these, these tree-lined roads coming into town, it's really, really nice. So that seems like it's kind of the obvious place to start and then work outwards from there. So those were just some of the things that we were kind of batting around, and, and then the tree care afterwards, the stewards. Because, the best planning in the world is gonna be wasted if the care afterwards is improper. It was a good meeting.
Another call for volunteers.
I know.
Yeah.
Adopt a tree.
Okay, there's nothing else on that. We have approval of the minutes from our January 14th, 2020 meeting, not 2019.
Before I make a motion, can I ask a question on the minutes of follow-up? We had Rebecca Moore on behalf of Nelson Drive came in, and we took an action. Is there any news on that front or is that part of your report later?
I can provide an update. So, right after, and someone had actually, in reviewing the tape, someone had actually said it at the end of the meeting, but, we had missed the appeal timeframe. So, and you might know this better than I do, I can't remember what that, it's like
30 days,
30
I think, yeah.
days after the building
appeal the zoning
permit
board.
is issued,
Yeah.
you can appeal to the zoning board. And
Right.
we had missed that deadline. But we met with Doug, Don, you met with Doug and I, and.
Bill.
Was it Bill? Yeah. and went through the plans with the resources that were present. He contacted the landowner, he's not moving forward, he knows he has, local and state permits that he needs to do work out there, so, so that's kind of where it is, we're waiting for him to submit applications. Rebecca Moore did contact, it may have just been Bill and I trying to set up a time to talk over what the next steps are. I had responded that I wasn't available on Wednesday and like needing a little bit more clarification of what my role is there. Like, I'm fine talking about what the town regulations are,
Yeah.
but I don't wanna get involved, if this turns into a lawsuit, I really just don't wanna
No.
have
But I think, the thing is,
association
we
at that stage.
discovered, and I think it was
It's-
Doug
it
Eastman
will be
reported back to the
resolved.
developer that they're gonna be required to pursue DES wetland application for this, because it's in a vernal, not a vernal, yeah,
Prime wetland.
prime wetland, thank you. So there's going to be some regulatory process that they're gonna have to go through. So I think, I think will make the abutters feel good, at least there's an opportunity for a public hearing
Right,
on this, because I think for prime wetlands, it is a public hearing,
yeah.
so. Thank you for the update. Just that it was, they came in, we had taken a vote
Right,
to pursue this, and I just thought it was good to follow up.
right. And,
Again, thanks, Kristen.
yeah, and you had talked to me about, did we talk in person about that?
I don't know.
Because I don't think it was through email, but you had mentioned that it was a prime wetland and they were gonna have to go to DES. I can't think of where I would have seen you.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, are there any comments or edits to the minutes?
I do have a couple.
Okay,
On the first page, the second to the last paragraph, it says, Miss Murphy did not think the commission could make the appeal. I think I had said that I did not think the commission was prohibited from appealing. Because later then we motioned to appeal, so
Right.
it's a little awkward.
yeah,
And then on page 2, Lou H, I have his full name for you, it's Hitzrot, Hitzrot.
Yep.
I think that was it.
Yeah, we should always try to include the whole name, if we can.
all right. Anything else? I'll
That's it.
take a
for me.
motion.
Move to accept the minutes of the January meeting as amended.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll
Any
abstain,
abstentions?
and
Knew that was
and
coming.
I abstain too.
2 abstentions?
Don't, we need,
We have
I know.
4. We have
That's
4.
four.
okay, okay.
Motion carries.
Close.
All right, do we have any correspondence?
There was communication from, and it was going to be an agenda item, but, after further discussions with DES, it'll come back as a full application. I had been talking with, Matt Berube from the Water Sewer Department. The Morissette, there's a significant series of cross-country sewer lines in town that have essentially never had the vegetation maintained on them. Several of which go through some fairly sensitive areas, so the one you're probably most familiar with is the Morissette property. In order for them to safely access for maintenance or any repair needs, they need a wider swath cleared along the sewer line. And, so he had said 10 to 12 feet wide. So this could dramatically change what that buffer looks like. The other cross-country sewer line, if any of you are familiar with the Enright property, which, I can never remember the
Down
name
off
of
of
it.
Hampton
Is it
Falls Road?
Carriage?
Carriage House
Carriage
Estates,
Drive or whatever.
Carriage
that-
House Estate, Carriage Drive.
between Hampton Road and Hampton Falls
Falls Road, yeah.
Road. There's a very large, prime wetland through there, and the sewer line goes right through it with standing there's standing water from the prime wetland that the sewer line passes right through, so, Matt's working on the next steps for permitting, and so that will come forward to you as a wetland application.
Okay.
Or I'm not sure, there's some question whether utility maintenance, is a lower scrutiny, even if it's a prime wetland in the new regulations, but I don't know, so we're investigating.
Okay,
Get Lindsay
But
involved.
even if it is just the permit by notification process, Matt was more than willing to talk to the commission about if there's areas that you want to protect. You know, I had mentioned there's some Japanese knotweed along the road to Morissette, from Linden Street to the bridge, that if they're doing some mowing, I wanna make sure the equipment gets cleared before it continues on, and some other things. So he would be more than willing to, take recommendations or areas that have something significant that, if possible, he can avoid. He's more than willing to consider that, so. Don't think that even if it is just a permit by notification, we won't discuss it. I think we can still bring it back and talk about it either way.
okay. Any other correspondence?
That's it.
Any other business? Anyone have any other business? All right, our next meeting date has been moved from the normal second Saturday. It will be a second Tuesday. It'll be on the third Tuesday, March 17th, 2020, because the second Tuesday is town meeting day. So the submittal deadline is February 21st, is that right?
I think that's holding the old submittal date.
Yeah.
Could be the 28th.
So it would be the
Yeah,
28th,
should be the
right?
28th.
Okay, February 28th. And having said that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
All right, should we vote on that? Everyone in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned.